David C. Jones with Before the Curtain Goes Up, and the curtain is going up at It's a Zoo, and we have a brand new original script about right here in Vancouver. And so let's find out more about the playwright and the show. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm so good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Sunrise Betties.
Yeah,
What now? Oh, let's start first. What drew you to the story? Were you reading a book in the library or talking to a senior citizen who said, you know what? And you were like, what?
it was a combination of things. So it started with watching a bunch of gangster movies with my husband because I was like, oh, like I've never been interested in seeing these movies. There's never any women in them. And my husband's just like, just watch them. Like The Departed is so good. What Usual Suspects, so good. Watch these movies. I was like, okay. And I watched them and I fell in love with them. But I still had that looming thing in my head. I was like, there's no freaking women in these. Like all the parts for women suck in these
Yeah.
movies and in this genre. And so I started sort of thinking about it. And then I picked up a book called The Last Gang in Town by Aaron Chapman, which is about gangs in Vancouver in the 1970s. And I started percolating on that and came up with an idea to insert an all-female gang in that time period in Vancouver. And it kind of went from there.
Oh, so the Bettys are not they're pulled from history in the sense inspired by, but they're not an actual, they're a completely fictitious thing that you've made up?
They're a fictitious gang in a very real historical setting.
Oh, how wonderful. Now, with the gangs of the time, uh, my understanding is Vancouver, particularly the Gastown area, became very, there was a big influx of the draft dodgers and the hippies that came up here. And did that give way to the criminal element in some way, or was that just
I
part of the
think
mix?
that definitely was part of it, but I think more so when you're looking back at Vancouver in this time period, we're setting it in 1972. It wasn't a city yet. It was a port town. It was a very, very working class port town, very, very blue collar. And I think from that, there's a lot of different ethnicity. A lot of immigrants came in, but it was very, very working class. And we hadn't had Expo '86 yet. Didn't have any of that. So that sort of working class environment really bred some of the criminal activity that we talk about in this play. And it was really territorial. Most gangs stuck to parks. So there was the Clark Park Boys and there was the Woodland Boys, and there was, everybody had sort of this like subsection in East Van. And
Nice.
meanwhile, there were some bigger mobster gang activities happening downtown, but on the east side, it was very much blue collar, young men. There wasn't a ton of gun violence or anything, but it was like low level criminal activity, and it was very, very territorial.
Wow. So what did the gangs do? Like, did they go, "Hey, let's go get some candy," or like,
I mean, there was B&Es, like some break and enter stuff. There was muggings. It was mostly just saying F the cops, and um they'd get into scuffles with other gangs, and there'd be fights and stuff, and some low level drug dealing.
right? So this certainly was the culture of the 60s and the 70s. The 60s rebellion leading into sort of the 70s, like freedom. The
Yeah.
72, so that would be 1 year after the Gastown riot, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because
Yes.
that was in
Yeah.
71. So,
Yes.
um, now how many characters make up your Betty's gang? And is this one of those things where it's one actor's playing like 12 different people?
No,
Okay.
no, no, I'm not that mean to my actors, or my audience. No, there's 5 women in the gang. So there's 5 actors playing those characters, and then we have one male character who's playing a VPD.
I would think that if you wanted to really reverse it, the male character should be the shrewish husband who's saying, "Why are you always going out?"
Yeah, come in with a wooden spoon and yeah, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
just to flip the script completely on
Yeah.
our beginning of the conversation where you're like, "There's hardly any women in these."
I mean, but to be fair, there were women in the gangs. There wasn't a ton, but I did get to interview Kim Bruckner, who was a female member of the Clark Park gang. So the
Oh wow!
women were very prevalent in that, and there was uh often I've heard a lot of stories like the girlfriends of the gang members were the ones you actually had to watch out for. So it's really based in a lot of reality, but when we think about that era, when we write about that era, there's, it is very male centered.
Nice, nice. Was one of the criminal movies that you watched The Warriors?
No, I
Oh,
haven't.
The Warriors is a classic, The Gangs of New York.
Oh,
It's got the classic line with the guy taking the Coke bottles and he's clanking them together and he goes, "Warriors, come out and
oh,
play."
I'm gonna have to watch that.
You're gonna have to watch it. Yes,
Yeah.
totally. So, you talked with this woman. Did you talk with other people to kind of go, how do I get these voices? Oh, well, and I'm gonna assume too, sorry, I interrupt my question with another question, that you are because we're much more color conscious now, that you've got an eclectic mix of people in your gang. So,
Yeah.
did you have people also advising on that?
I mean, the people that I talked to mainly were Kim and Danny Mouse. We call him Mouse. Um, he was a member of a prevalent member of the Clark Park gang. And then I talked to Aaron Chapman, who wrote the book on that. I also talked to John Growinski, he's a former VPD officer, and he founded a gang unit within the VPD, so he had lots of experience with that. But as far as the ethnic makeup of these gangs, it was really all over the place. There
Mhm.
was not, it wasn't racially segregated at all. And so when I
Mhm.
when I wrote the play and when we were casting the play, I didn't write down anybody having a specific ethnicity or race. It was just whoever is good for this part. So we do have sort of a mixed bag.
Oh, nice. So it's you didn't have to bring like a consultant in or anything to sort of
No,
nice, nice. What has been like now you wrote this, but you're not directing, correct?
I'm not directing. No, Jamie King is directing.
Nice. So now are you in the rehearsal room or they're like, stay out, it's on now, get out.
Yes, I've been invited to be in the rehearsal room as much as I want to be. We'll see how that goes. I do
Is
have a
that
5 month
scary?
old baby, so
Oh yeah.
um, yeah, I'm on parental leave right now. So we'll see how that
Nice.
that works
Uh,
out. But yeah, Jamie and I have a great working relationship, and she is fully open to me being there as much as I want to be there. So.
Nice. Is it scary to hear your words going, that's not how it is in my head?
Well, initially it was, and we've done 3 or 4 workshops now. I mean, I've been working on this for 5 or 6 years. So we've done a lot of workshops with actors already. So I've heard the play a lot by actors, and I have had those feelings of like, oh, that's not what I meant. Oh, that's not, the idea. But
Yeah.
honestly, this cast, I I was so inspired by some of their reads, and some of them were in workshops with us before, and they really actually inspired a lot more flavor for the characters. So when I was doing rewrites this time around, I was like, oh, I had their voices in my head.
Nice.
Yeah, and I found it extremely helpful, and I mean, it's so rich now when we know who's going to play these parts. So
How wonderful. How wonderful. What do you want the audience's takeaway to be from this show? Do they want, is this an adventure? Is this like a mystery or like what because you're not going to have gang violence on stage necessarily. Or
oh,
maybe you are.
I would never dream of that. No, it's gonna be really violent. It's a violent play. And I think the sort of overarching thing I want people to take away is I want them to have fun. I find gangster movies so fun. The intensity, the who's snitching on who's the
Yeah.
bad guy. I love all those feelings of suspense in a gangster film. And I also really want to take away that, like, yeah, these these characters, there's a bunch of women on stage and they're behaving badly, and that's okay. You know?
Nice, nice. Women behaving badly.
Yeah. Well, you know, I find there's a lot of times when you have like a all female or mostly female cast, people are like, oh, so what's the like feminist message here? And the message is that we don't have to have a feminist message every time we have women on stage.
Yeah, they're just people,
Yeah. They're
right?
just people doing people shit, you know?
Nice. What is your favorite part about this process? What is it?
I think one of my favorite parts of this process is actually handing the play off to Jamie King because I'm such a huge fan of theirs. And I think that they have such a modern take on live theater. And I just know that the play is in such good hands. It feels like I'm birthing another one of my children. Truly, letting them, you know, flourish. So I'm just so excited to see what they do with it and what they take with this thing that has been in my heart and in my head for 6 years. You know,
Wow, wow. I'm so excited to see this show. Sunrise Betties. What venue are you in? I've forgotten.
we're in the good old basement of the Russian Hall.
The Russian Hall in the basement. Oh, that could be the gang's hideout.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Is that factual?
I mean, there were gangs in that area, so
Oh, right.
I don't know what the Russian Hall's been used for, but I can imagine there's been some criminal activity there.
Nice. Well, it
Yeah.
would be a crime if people miss this show. So, Cheyenne, thank you so much. I don't think I said your name at the beginning. I just realized. Well, thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to it. How about you sell these people on the show? You get 10 seconds to look in your camera and tell people why they should see this show.
People of Vancouver, we often erase our history here in Vancouver. We build new houses. Here is what this city used to look like. If you live here, if you work here, if you breathe here, you need to see this important part of our history. It is going to be an absolute banger. You get to see a bunch of women behaving badly on stage, some violence, lots of swearing. It's going to be a really good time. So don't miss Sunrise Betties at the Russian Hall.
That's a great sales pitch. My goodness. Well, thank you so much. It was so lovely talking with you. Bye-bye.